we'll begin. I wanted to go back to last week's Parsha. I think we mentioned something last week's Parsha a little bit. So last week's Parsha, as we know, is the encounter between Yaakov and Esav. And we know from all the generations that the Chachamim have told us that if whenever we, I don't know if it means we as individuals, but certainly whenever whoever it is representing Klal Yisrael has to meet with whoever is representing Esav, that the Chachamim used to go through this Parsha, learn it again to see the basic principles of how we deal with Esav. And of course, it doesn't only mean in the political realm. It really means how we, as we are Jews, Yaakov, what happens when we encounter Esav? We encounter non-Jewish cultures, non-Jews, different forces, whether they're physical or political or social forces. How as Jews should we handle this? Now remember, when we're talking about we are encountering Esav, this is talking about when Esav is powerful, and we are, at least on the natural level, relatively weak. Or to say it another way, we're talking about when we're in exile. Now, while we would like to kid ourselves, especially those of us who have the tremendous schus to live in Eretz Yisrael, and it is a schus, and anyone who can come here, as long as they can maintain themselves in Yiddishkeit, which is a very important point. So we're not talking about living in Israel. It's the equivalent of living anywhere else. Nonetheless, even here in Eretz Yisrael, we are in exile. We are in Golus. We're in Golus because we don't have a Beis Hamikdash. We're in Golus because things do not run according to Torah. We're in Golus because the majority of our brothers and sisters, Litzarenu Harav, we're not making any judgments here. We're just stating that, as a matter of fact, the majority of people are not Shomer Shabbos and all the other things. We're in Golus, and if we think we're not in Golus, let's just think back just 2 short years ago, what happened on that terrible Simchas Torah, and all of the people that have been killed, and all of the Jewish soldiers who are hundreds of them still injured, all the people and all the things that are going on. This is not the Geula that our grandparents dreamt of. Nonetheless, Eretz Yisrael is Eretz Yisrael. And, it's a schus to live here, and there's a kedusha here that cannot be found anywhere else. So how do we deal with non-Jews, not necessarily as individuals, but the non-Jewish culture, whether we are out there in wherever it is, London or New York or wherever you are, or whether it's here in Eretz Yisrael? Remember, the Greek exile, Hanukkah, took place entirely in the land of Israel. It wasn't like the Babylonians who destroyed the Beis Hamikdash and threw us out. It wasn't like the Persians where we were in the Persian Empire. It wasn't like the Romans who eventually destroyed the second Beis Hamikdash and threw us out. The Greek exile happened entirely here in the land of Israel. So here we have, in last week's Parsha, it begins this way. Vayishlach Yaakov melachim lefanav el Esav achiv. Yaakov sent melachim ahead of him to his brother Esav. And Rashi says, it's a well-known Rashi. It's a very well-known Rashi. Rashi says on the words, he sent melachim, he says, melachim mamish. He sent actual, real angels. The word malach can also mean emissaries, just messengers. So it could have meant a word for messengers. But Rashi is at pains to tell us that Yaakov is sending real angels, which tells us something about who Yaakov is, even in Golus. Even when he's in the level of Yaakov is from the word akev, which means the heel. That's we're in our lowest place. When we're Yisrael, we're in the higher place. We're Yisar Kel, we're the princes of God. But even when we're in our lower level, because we're in exile, we still have the koach of commanding the spiritual world. Remember when Sarah Imenu, when and Avram Avinu went down to Mitzrayim, they tried to assault Sarah, and she was able to command the malachim. She was able to command angels to afflict the various men who wanted to assault her, so they could not assault her. Right? So this koach comes in the schus of Sarah Imenu, and it comes all the way down to Yaakov, and he sends malachim. What difference does it make to us if he sent actual angels or if he sent messengers? What difference does it make? So the Sfarim tell us this is a hint to us that what we're going to read about now is something that is going to affect the higher spiritual worlds. This is not some kind of he's got a lot of soldiers and I have fewer, I have more sheep and he has less cows or something. That's not what's going on here. Something is going on that affects the high spiritual realms. And the hint is malachim mamish, real angels are being sent. And then we read what Yaakov Avinu tells these angels to say to Esav. V'yitzav osam, he commanded them. He had the ability, the power to command them. Lemor, he said to them, Kol tamrun la'adoni le'esav. Thus shall you say to my master, to Esav. Kol amar avdecha Yaakov. Thus said your servant Yaakov. So you've got two very interesting phrasing here. First of all, what's this word kol tomar? And why does it appear twice? It could have just said, thus you must say to my master Esav that your servant Yaakov said. But twice you have the word kol. And what is this word kol? We spoke about it before, right? And what the principle, which we're going to speak about a little bit now, is a principle that I heard from Rav Aaron Feldman. Rav Aaron Feldman at that time was here as the Rosh Yeshiva of Or Samech. Today he's the Rosh Yeshiva of Ner Yisrael in Baltimore. I heard at his Shabbos table, he said, I think it was his Shabbos table, it was at his table, that he said in the name of the Arizal that Kol, Chaf He, always means the highest spiritual level. When Adam HaRishon ate from the tree, Hashem said to him, Ayeh Ko, where is the Ko? What did you do to that high spiritual level you had? What did you do? And we know that somehow or another, Adam HaRishon degraded it. You can't get rid of it, but somehow it was degraded and needs somehow now to be shined up, as it were. And Adam and Chava are going to hand over this mission to Avraham and Sarah. Right? The Gemara says, Atem korim Adam, v'hem lo korim Adam. You, the Jewish people, are called Adam, and they, the non-Jews, are not called Adam. Doesn't mean they're not people. It means they do not carry that high level of Adam HaRishon, and they do not have the mission of Adam HaRishon, which is to bring the world to its perfection. And therefore we have, when Hashem tells Avram Avinu what the Jewish people will be like, he begins with Kol Yiyeh Zarecha, which is usually translated as "Thus shall your children be." But it's not a thus shall your children be. He's telling them, your children will be kol. They're the ones who will be able to reach this high level of kol. And we find it we see it many times. We've said in other classes where this kol appears when Eliezer goes to and finds Rivka, and Rivka's family said, "Do you want to go with this man? Do you want to go with Eliezer?" And Rivka answers, "This man said kol to me." If it's an introduction, thus did this man say to me, now say what he said, but there's nothing there. Just says kol. He said kol to me. He told me, he conveyed to me that somehow or another, that if I will go back and marry Yitzchak, I'll be part of this kol. And this can explain the Rashi, right? We know Eliezer gave all kinds of jewelry to Rivka, and Rashi is supposed to tell us the pshat, says the bracelets represent the Aseret Adibros, and this represents this and that, all kinds of things which don't seem to be in any way an explanation of the pasuk. Right? But now we understand that with that jewelry, Rivka somehow understood the symbolism of that jewelry. He wasn't just giving her gifts. He was giving her a hint to who the Jewish people are and what will happen if she joins Klal Yisrael. Right? We've said other times, when in Mitzrayim we have the idea of kol, right? It appears there. When an Egyptian strikes a Jew, Moshe Rabbeinu sees it, and he wants to kill the Egyptian. And of course, he looks around, to make sure no one's watching, right? And he saw that no one was there, so he killed him. That's what the pasuk says. But the wording of the pasuk is very strange. It says that Moshe looked kol for kol. He looked kol and kol. And when he saw there was no ish, then he killed him. Rashi, So Rashi says, what does he mean? He looked to see if any converts would come from that Egyptian. Now, where did he get that from the pasuk? You get it from this principle. He looked to see if this Egyptian he or his descendants had the potential of kol. And when he saw they didn't, then he killed him. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that if a non-Jew is not going to convert, we should kill them. Here we're talking about an Egyptian who deserves the death penalty. The only question is whether to impose it or not impose it. Right? Just as Hashem told us to spare the nation of Moab because Ruth is coming from there. So Moshe Rabbeinu understood that even though this Egyptian deserves the death penalty, if he or a descendant have a kol in them, then he'll let him live. And when he saw that it wasn't true, then he killed him. And you have many cases like this all the way through Chumash, where this word kol is this code word, as it were. And of course, this is up to and including and most magnificently at the time of Matan Torah. Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, you have to tell the Torah to the Jewish people. First to the women, then to the men, right? Chazal asks, why are you telling the women first? Usually the Torah is given over by men, usually, right? Why are you telling the women? So I said, because the women are more careful in mitzvahs, because the women will teach the children, because the husbands will only be inspired to learn if their wives are behind them, etc., etc. Lots of reasons why. Right? Well, how is Moshe told to tell the women? This is what he's told. Kol Tomar leBeis Yaakov. Thus shall you tell Beis Yaakov. So that's how it seems. Thus. That's not really what it means. It means you're going to the women. Tell the women kol. Kol Tamar. Say kol to them. If the women know what a Jew really is, Maybe they're not going to be the teachers of Torah. They're certainly not going to be the teachers of halacha. They're not the poskim. They're not the Rosh Yeshiva. They're not all of that. But they are going to hold the idea of kol, the identity, the high ruchnius level of what a Jew is, the uniqueness of what a Jew is, the tzura of what a Jew is. That's the job of women. The women are going to carry this, not first of all, by the fact that a person is a Jew because their mother's Jewish. I know there's conversion. We're not talking about conversion now. We're talking about in the normal course of events, right? Someone is Jewish because their mother is Jewish, because she carries the kol. The kol is that deep, deep thing that's inside of all of us, that light that's in every single Jew, that pintele yid, that part of us which is beyond the influence of everything else. So kol tomar the Beis Yaakov. Tell Beis Yaakov, tell the women that they have to be they're the kol people. They have to hold on to what it means to be that. And then afterwards, like Gid, the B'nai Yisrael, you can explain to the B'nai Yisrael, the men, all of the technicalities of the Torah, all the ins and outs, all of the whatever, yeah. But without the kol, there's no foundation for anything else. So here, Yaakov Avinu knows in Golus, sometimes we have to address Esav, the non-Jewish world, as Adoni, my master. You have to shake hands with whoever it is, the prime ministers, the presidents, the government officials, and say, yes, sir. And know that in exile, they have a certain power, right? That's for sure. But when you go to Esav, the first thing you have to convey to him is that you're dealing with a kol. Kol tamru la'adoni le'esav. This is what you should say to Esav. You should say to Esav, I'm going to treat you with derech eretz, or I'm going to whatever, but I'm not going to forget who I am. I'm a kol. Even if you have to say, I am your servant. Kol amar avdecha Yaakov. Thus did Yaakov, your servant, say. What did I have to? Okay, we're in sometimes in a subordinate position, politically, economically, I don't know whatly, when we're in exile, and we are, from that point of view, like servants, but we're co-servants. Co meaning we never forget who we really are. We have to play the game of exile, and it's not a Sunday afternoon Monopoly game. It's a very, very serious game, and we have to treat whoever it is, wherever we're in exile, in a certain way. But we can never forget who we really are, even if we do things which make it seem in some way as we're basically the same as them. We have to know deep inside of us that we are not the same as them. Not because we want to brag about how wonderful we are and how terrible they are. That's got nothing to do with that. Our position as the Am Hashem is not only an honor to Hashem, but in the end, it's good for the nations of the world as well. Because if we don't hold on to that light, there will be no light to reflect to them. Remember, the Jewish people are called Or Lagoyim. They can only get the light of Hashem through us. So if we demean ourselves in reality and try to be like them, they're the ones who will lose. Right? Of course we'll lose. Of course it will take away the honor of Hashem, but they'll lose as well. Right? Perhaps they sometimes sense that. Maybe they're angry with us when we don't live up to what we're supposed to be. I don't know. So Yaakov Avinu is doing something with the Malachim. It's on a high spiritual level. And he sends them to tell Esav, okay, I have to call you Adoni. I have to call you my master, but it's the kol. I, Yaakov, who still represents, I represent HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm the one who's saying it. I'm the one who's calling myself your servant, because that's the position we are in the world of exile. And I want to tell you, he says, Yaakov says, Im Loven Garti, even though I'm going to be in exile, I'm going to live amongst people who are corrupt, people who don't keep Torah. Not just they don't keep Torah mitzvahs, but they're corrupt and they're not yasher, and they do this and they do that and they do all kinds of things, and all the political behind the scenes things that go on, all the deals, all the good deals, all the corrupt deals, we all know what goes on in that world, in the world of politics, in the world of economics, all that stuff. I've lived with that. I lived with Lavan. Lavan was a trickster, but im Lavan Garti, and as Rashi says, famous Rashi, which I suppose everybody knows because it rhymes, right? Im Lavan Garti, v'tariag mitzvahs shomati. I lived with Lavan, but I did not stray from the derech HaTorah. I kept all the mitzvahs of the Torah that I could keep at that time. And I did not learn from his bad ways, which means not only I kept the technicalities of the Torah, it's not just I kept the nuts and bolts of Shabbos and Kashrut and all those things. I did not learn from his midas. I did not learn from his bad behavior. Maybe a person, we could keep all the do's and don'ts of the Torah, but we could become, in our demeanor, in our culture, in our tzura, like them. It's certainly possible to do that. We know people, maybe once upon a time it was us as well, I don't know, where we kept mitzvahs. On Shabbos, we were religious, and on Sunday, we were like everybody else, except the food was kosher. But basically, our interests, the way we spoke, the way we carried ourselves, the things we talked about. I'm not talking about things which are osa. Obviously, if it's osa, that's part of the mitzvahs. But even if it's not osa, right? Discussing things which have got really nothing to do, not only nothing to do with us, but it's not a Jewish way of life. Talking about things, just interests which have got nothing to do with what it means to be a Jew, even if they're completely permissible. And certainly the midos, if the midos are bad. So Yaakov tells these malachim, tell this to Esav. Sometimes I have to call you my master. Sometimes I have to say I'm your servant. But I am not going to, not only I'm not going to give up Torah mitzvahs, I'm not going to give up what it means to be a Jew. I'm going to hold on to that kol, even in the most corrupt situation. So that's how this parsha begins. Now, this week's parsha, after all of these things that happen, right, we come to the parsha of Vayeshev, and what do we find about Yaakov? Vayeshev Yaakov migure aviv be'eretz Canaan. Yaakov settles in the land where his father had lived, in Eretz Canaan. Right? So Vayeshev certainly means to settle, right? Yishuv haaretz, it means to settle, it means literally to sit, to come to rest. But we know that the word Vayeshev, shin vet, is also the middle letters of the word teshuvah, to return. Right? So you could translate this, Yaakov returned to the land where his fathers had dwelled, in Canaan. And that would certainly be a translation. But it's telling us this: after Yaakov had this encounter with Esau, even though Yaakov told him, I'm Kol, I'm not you, I'm carrying on the mission of Odom HaRishon, I'm a child of the Ovos, of the Imahos, Kol Yiyeh Zarecha, I'm the one who's going to carry on this light and bring this light, the light that was blocked because of what Adam did and what we've done. Nonetheless, we carry it and we're going to bring it back to the world, and we're going to bring it back through Torah mitzvahs and not getting involved in the culture of other people. Nonetheless, we have to come back. Now, I'm not talking about coming back because we've done something wrong. Obviously, if you've done something wrong, you have to do tshuva. But it's not just that. Once we've been out there, we have to keep coming back to our source. We have to keep coming back and touching base with who we are. And that's what Yaakov does. He comes back to where? To where his father lived. He comes back to where things began. And he comes back to Eretz Canaan. Now, Eretz Yisrael was originally called Eretz Canaan. The technical reason it's called Eretz Canaan is because Eretz Yisrael was occupied by different nations, and the main nation was the nation of Canaan, so it was called Eretz Canaan, right? But Chazal tell us another reason why it's called Canaan. It's Eretz Yisrael is called Eretz Canaan because it brings a person to Hachna'ah. Hachna'ah means submission. When a person comes into Eretz Yisrael, I don't mean you arrive at Lud airport waving a flag and acting like somebody who, who's just turned up in any other country. We're not talking about that. When somebody really enters into what Eretz Yisrael is and comes back to their forefathers, comes back to the Ovos, to the Imahos, comes back to that light, Eretz Yisrael brings out from us a sense of submission to Hashem, hachno to Hashem, a willingness to serve Hashem, a willingness to go in his ways, not just technically, but in everything. Or as another way of saying it, in Torah, Eretz Yisrael, in Eretz Yisrael, everything in the Torah touches us deep in a higher way, in a deeper way. Eretz Yisrael is a place where Hashem's presence is more evident. Yerushalayim and Eretz Yisrael in general is called Sion. Tzadik Yud Vav Nun, Sion. What's Sion? In Hebrew, if you want to say something is outstanding, you say it's Mitsuyan, right? I mean, excellent. It means outstanding. In the Haggadah, it says that the Jewish people, even though we were in Egypt, we were Mitsuyonim Sham. We were excellent. It doesn't mean we got good grades. It means we stood out. You could see a Jew a mile away. The way we dressed, the way we carried ourselves, our derech eretz, everything. Jews stood out. And Eretz Yisrael is a place where the presence of Hashem stands out. If we're only looking for Hashem, can very, very easily find him here in Eretz Yisrael. It's, by the way, it's the word Sion is used for a grave marker because it shows where something is, important is. It's called a Sion, a marker. The Eretz Yisrael is a place like that. And because Hashem's presence is more obvious here, it leads us to Hachno. And because we are more we subjugate ourselves more to Hashem, so then we see him more. It's, one leads to other and the other goes, and this goes here and that goes there. But the important thing is that Yaakov returns. He comes back. He went out. He had to face Esav. He went forward, and then he comes back. And that's the pattern of Klal Yisrael whenever we are in Golus. Until the Mashiach comes, until the Geula Shlema, we are forced to go out. Now you could say, we live at some, depending where you live, when we live in nice religious communities, and we do, Baruch Hashem, and people should try to live as much as possible amongst Jews who support us and make it easier for us to do what we want to do. But with all of that, all of us go out. We all go here, we go on buses, we go to stores, we go to offices, we have to deal with all kinds of people. I'm not going to say that Jews who are not from are Esav, because they're not, they're Jews, but they carry the culture of Esav. Very, very often, the culture is the culture of Esav. Oh, here in Eretz Yisrael, one of the big things that's going on here, as you all know, is whether Yeshiva Bachim should go to the army or not. So let's just leave aside the major question of, who will defend the Jewish people if the Bachim are not learning Torah, right? The learning of Torah is a magnal matzlah. It's the main defense of Klal Yisrael, but it's not just that. Right? If somebody leaves the Beis Medrash and goes out it's not just they go and meet somebody who's not religious, but they go into an institution which is based on values which are diametrically opposed to the Torah. I don't mean an army is per se directly opposed to the Torah. I don't think that's true. But an army that's based on Keichi Ba'adsam Yodi, look what we can do, how clever are we? We are this and we are that. That whole attitude makes it very, very difficult for somebody to hold their own. They may keep the technicalities of Shabbos and Kashrus, but they can easily lose the tzura, the sense of what being a Jew is. So all of us go out, and when we go out, we have to go out with the consciousness of Ko, knowing who we are, but we also have to keep coming back and touching base. We come back to our homes, Baruch Hashem, maybe to the shuls, to shiurim, to our friends, whatever. We have to keep coming back and touching base, because if we don't, then we will lose the koach to go out again. We'll lose the spiritual strength to be able for the next day's encounter and the day after and the day after. This pattern is the pattern of the lighting of the menorah that we are very, very, very soon going to light for Hanukkah, Haba Aleinu L'Tova. So just a word about what we light on Hanukkah. On Hanukkah, we light the Hanukkah menorah. I know that in modern Hebrew, and it's probably filtered out even outside of Israel, to call the thing that we light a Chanukiah. And I'm not going to tell you that it's osser to call it a Chanukiah, because I'm sure that it's not osser to call it that. But it's a relatively new term. One of the reasons why we want to call it a menorah is not because because the word Chanukiah doesn't appear in the Chumash or something. The reason we want to call it the menorah is because we're linking it to the menorah of the Beis Hamikdash. Remember when the Nesiim, everybody brought offerings for the inauguration of the Beis Hamikdash, and Aaron HaKohen wasn't included in that. He was down. How come I'm not part of this bringing korbanos? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, you're going to do something that's going to be even greater, and it will last for generations. What will it be? You're going to light the menorah. And that will last for the generations, because even the korbanos can only be brought when there's a Beis Hamikdash. But the Klal Yisrael will light a menorah. It's not the same kind of menorah, but it's not the same menorah, but it's a very similar thing, even when there's no Beis Hamikdash. And our intention in lighting the menorah is to link us back to that, because after all, what do we want? What light are we talking about? We're talking about essentially the light of Hashem, which shone in the Beis Hamikdash. The term Chanukiah was invented. The word menorah exists, and it could have easily been used. It was invented to remove Hanukkah from its source, to make it into a holiday, maybe even a children's holiday. Right? Often people think of Purim and Hanukkah as like a children's holiday. We all like little colored candles, and we give presents, and it's like, whatever. But we know that it's something much greater than that. That when we light the menorah, our menorah, we are beginning the process of Emias Hashem being zeicha to see the Kohen Gadol light the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash. So this is what, it's a very interesting thing that just in the holiday where we're expressing our uniqueness, there's been an attempt to pull it back and make it into something that's just like, like everything else, right? We fought the Greeks with their obsession with sports. So Jews came up with their own Olympics, which they called the Maccabea. Maccabi from the Maccabim, the ones who fought against this, they took that name and they used it exactly against what it represents. So our job in lighting the menorah is to link ourselves back to the Beis Hamikdash. And how do we light? So there's a way of lighting. Now the truth is, if you light, as long as you light one candle, you actually fulfill the mitzvah. But the minhag of the whole of Klal Yisrael is to light one on the first day, two on the second day, three on the third day, etc. Right? The whole of Klal Yisrael does this. It's one of the few mitzvahs, maybe even the only mitzvah, that all Jews do beyond the basic halachic requirements. And the way we light is, on the first night, you light the candles that's on your right-hand side. Now, just a word about this. In the Torah, we're told that there are two types of mitzvahs. One type of mitzvahs are called right-handed mitzvahs. I don't mean you do them with your right hand. Right-handed mitzvahs refers to those things which are written in Shulchan Aruch, and they are already in Kedusha. Shabbos, Kashrus, all the things that are written in Shulchan Aruch, they're already in Kedusha. These are called right-handed mitzvahs. What about left-handed mitzvahs? Left-handed mitzvahs refers to things which are outside of Kedusha unless we pull them into Kedusha. All the things that we do that we share in common with the rest of the world. It's true, when we buy food, we buy kosher food. We make sure if it's meat or chicken, it's kosher properly. If it's fruits and vegetables, it's taking Trumas and Maisers, we say brachas. All of that is right-handed. But with the way we eat, if we eat like a Jew, with the intention of a Jew, to have koach to serve Hashem, that's left-handed. We have to have that intention. We have to pull the food out of the realm of the animal and bring it into the realm of Kedusha. These are called left-handed mitzvahs. We're very involved in the left-handed mitzvahs. We're taking care of the house and we're doing the laundry and all those things. Everybody does that. We don't do laundry in any particular way. It's the same laundry that everybody does. But it depends on their intention. And if we do it with the intention of serving Hashem, we take it out of the realm of the left, which is called the realm of darkness, and we bring it into the realm of Kedusha. So when we light, the first night, we light the candle on our right-hand side. You have to start with Kedusha. You have to start knowing you're a Kol. You have to start knowing that's who we are. And then the second night, we have two candles, and we begin with the candle on the left-hand side, the new one. We step out into a realm which is not yet Kadosh, and we light that candle, and then we light the candle that's on the right. So we're going out to the left and coming back to the right. We're going out into the realm which is not Kadosh, which is dark, and bringing it back into the realm of Kedusha, which is full of light. And that's the pattern of the lighting of the menorah. To start with Kedusha and then take a step outside and then pull it back into Kedusha. And then another step and pull it back into Kedusha. And that's the way in general. It's a principle in general in the way that we live, that we have to start with a strong sense of who we are, a strong sense of our Kedusha, a strong sense of what it means to be a Jew. And then when we have to venture out, and it's inevitable, we're in exile, of course we have to venture out. Right? What are you going to do? Never go on a bus again or something, yeah? We go out, we have to take what we do, bring some light to it, if we can, by our behavior, by our dress, by our speech, etc., and then bring it back into the realm of Kedusha. Just as Yaakov Avinu, he knew he was a Kol, he went out to Esav, and then he came back to dwell in the land that his father had dwelt in Eretz Canaan. He once again, after he'd been out there, subjugated himself, submitted himself to the rule of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which he had seen by his father. Right? Now, maybe some of us didn't see it by our parents. We're not going there now, but certainly talking about the Ovos and the Imahos, certainly from there, to bring everything back and touch base again so that we keep igniting the light in ourselves. We keep strengthening the koach of being a Jew within ourselves. If we don't do this, if we spend too much time out there and we never come back and touch base, we will find that our spiritual energy diminishes. And before we know it, we'll be making all kinds of compromises. At the beginning, it's not going to be doing things which are asa. It doesn't work that way. It goes very slowly, very, very slowly. We lose the tzura of being a Jew. You know, the Greeks originally didn't care if we kept our religion. They didn't mind. You can have a temple. You want your temple, fine, as long as you know it's just one temple amongst many. You want to keep these rituals, keep them just as long as you know. Other religions have rituals, it's all the same. You have your scriptures, we have our scriptures. You know, our version of it would be there's some people Friday is holy, some people Saturday is holy, some people Sunday is holy. It's all basically the same. It's just variations on the theme. As long as we were willing to do this, they were willing for us to carry on. What we knew that this losing the losing the deep consciousness of what it is to be a Jew, it's only a matter of time before everything else crumbles. If you don't have the kol tamar of the mothers, of the women, then you won't have the learning and the halacha of the men. It begins with the women. Kol tamar lebeis Yaakov. That has to be the foundation. So Chazal say to us, the way the Greeks expressed it, I don't know if it means the Greeks said these words, but Chazal tell us these words as a representation of what the Greeks wanted. The Greeks said to us this: Kisvu lechem al keren shur, write for yourselves on the horn of an ox, she'ein lachem chelek belokei Yisrael, that you do not have a part in the God of Israel. A very strange thing. What's talking about? Write for yourself on the horn of an ox that you don't have a part in the God of Israel. That was their aim. That's what they wanted. That's what they intended us to end up as. So what does this mean? What does it mean? What's a keren shur got to do? What's the horn of an ox got to do with anything? And why? What does it mean you don't have a chelek? You don't have a part in the God of Israel. So there are many ways of explaining it. One idea is that a keren, a horn, was used in the ancient world. They used to, dig it out and use it like a baby bottle. They pour something into it and drip it from the narrow end, the pour in through the wide end, and the narrow end was used to drip some liquid or whatever into a baby. So one understanding is what we want you to do is we want you to tell the children from the word go that they have no connection with Hashem, right? Make it part of their early childhood education, right? They should drink it in with their mother's milk. That's one understanding. But the other, and I'm sure that's true as well. What's a keren? A keren is something that's connected to the head, but it goes beyond the head, like a shofar. Right? A shofar is connected to the head, but it goes beyond. What they wanted from us is that we should not have any consciousness of Hashem, not just intellectually, but in our deepest subconscious, in our super consciousness, in the higher realm of what a person can experience. We should know in that highest place that you don't have a part in the God of Israel. That's a very strange lashon as well. What do you mean, ein lechem chelek? So this word chelek appears many times in the Torah. Before we start saying Pirkei Avos, the minhag is to say a posuk before. What's the posuk? First is an introduction, then there's the posuk. Kol Yisrael, yesh lahem chelek la'olam haba. Every Jew has a chelek, a part in the world to come. Shene'emar, as it says, va'amech kulam tzadikim. All the Jewish people are all tzadikim. Why is all of that? Right? Pirkei Avos is a very high standard. Pirkei Avos is not the nuts and bolts of halacha. It's the deeper midos, the light that shines from the neshama of Klal Yisrael. But what do we have to know? Kol Yisrael, every Jew, yesh lehem chelek la'olam haba. It doesn't say we have a chelek ba'olam haba, in the world to come. It says we have a chelek towards the world to come. What's that chelek? It means every Jew has inside of them a chelek of Hashem, a chelek Elokah mimal, and something of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is inside of every single Jew. We can find these words in all the different variations of Torah, of real Yiddishkeit. You can find it in the Tanya. You can find it in the works of the Vilna Gaon. I came across it recently on his Perush on Nishmas. If you look in the Perush of the Vilna Gaon on Nishmas, he says, every Jew is a chelek Elokah mima'al. You can find it, I think, in Mesilas Yesharim. What is it? It's not some made-up thing that some pop person came up with. Every Jew, we have something in us which is an emanation of Hashem himself. And that's why you can say, V'amech kulam tzadikim. Really, deep inside, we're all tzadikim. It's only a question of living up to it. Which is what Pirkei Avos is trying to motivate us to do. Don't think Pirkei Avos is beyond us. It's only that we haven't dug deep enough into ourselves to find it. We're really all tzadikim. And that's what a Keren Shor is. Yosef HaTzadik is called a shor. Remember when they brought Yosef out of, when they were looking for Yosef's coffin, they didn't know where it was. It was under the water or something. They said, Alei shor, let the shore jump up, come up. Shor is somehow or another connected to Yosef HaTzadik, who's Yashar, shor. The tzidkus of a Yisrael, you can read as Yud Sin Resh or Yud Shin Resh, Yashar. We're all ashore. We're all straight. We're all tzaddikim. So write for yourself, the Greeks are saying, on that part of you, that super rational part of you that knows that you're a tzaddik, that knows that you carry the light of Hashem. On that, I want you to engrave these words. She'ein lechem chelek. You do not have inside of you a chelek, which is part of Elokei Yisrael, which is a part of Hashem himself. If you continue to believe that you are in essence different from the Greeks, then we can never defeat you. We can defeat you this way, we can defeat you that way. There are many ways we can defeat you, but we will never win over Klal Yisrael if the Jewish people still believe, not just intellectually, not even just emotionally, but in a part that you can't even explain, that we have a chelek, we have a part inside of us which is an emanation of Elokei Yisrael, of the God of Israel. The Greeks could not tolerate the idea that we were in essence different from them. This was completely unacceptable to them because it meant they could never rule over us ideologically. There's only a limited amount of time when you can post soldiers to keep order. At some point, the population has to buy into your ideology. And when they buy into your ideology, you don't need the soldiers anymore. You've won. So they wanted that us to buy into their ideology, and the Jewish people refused to buy into it. They refused to go in that derech. Oh, maybe I have to say to you, yes, sir, no, sir, Adoni, yeah, but maybe sometimes I have to say, I'm at your service, here I am. But inside, we have to know that we're co, that we're something completely different. And as long as we know this, then eventually we will win over not just the ideology of the Greeks, but the ideology of Esau, the ideology of Ishmael, the ideology of the whole world, even those people who are so friendly to us, who are so wonderful to us and everything else, but we have to be careful that we don't identify with them too much. Right, we are, Westerners. So I'm not an American, but I suppose America is the biggest Western influence in Israel, right? And sometimes, we think, oh yeah, we're Republicans. We're Republicans. Yeah, we're not Republicans. We're not Democrats. We're not anything. We may have to say to the Republicans, Adoni, yeah, and go along with certain things because this coincides with what we need, what the Klal Yisrael needs. And in Israel, we're not right wing, we're not left wing, we're not right wing, we're Torah wing. Sometimes we have to say Avdecha, we have to play the game, but that's not who we really are. If we identify too much with these different parties, these different groups, we will lose our hold on what it means to really to be a Jew. Chanukah is the time when the whole of Klal Yisrael reached the level of Ko, Chanu Ko. They came to rest on the 25th. It doesn't just mean the 25th of Kislev. They rested on the 25th, the level of 25. We said last week, I think, if you count from the first word of the Chumash, Bereshis, Bara Elokim, the 25th word is Or, light. We came to rest. The whole Jewish people reached that level, the level of not just reached it, but were conscious of it. And therefore, we were successful over the Greeks. The New Testament is written in Greek. And, the writer, this is not a class on the New Testament, but the writers of the New Testament had a problem. What do you go, they were not successful in converting many Jews to their new belief. Right? They were at the beginning they were Jews, but when they tried to missionize the rest of the Jewish people, the Klal Yisrael were having nothing of it. So they went and started to missionize amongst the Gentiles. Now, what are you going to do when you missionize amongst the Gentiles when the Chumash is perfectly clear that Klal Yisrael is the Am Hashem, the Am Segula? Right? What are you going to tell them? That come and join our religion and you'll be second rate, you'll be second class, you'll be sug bet or something. They can't tell them that. So they invented a whole thing, and you can see it, and it's a directly in opposition to what we say every morning, right? They said in this new belief, it's not exactly what they said, but I don't want to say the words of what it says there in the New Testament. In this new belief, there's no difference between a Jew and a Greek and a Gentile, right? There's no difference. This wall between Jews and Gentiles has been broken down, and now we're all one. Everybody's one in this new belief. It doesn't say in this new belief. I don't want to say what it says, but we're all one in this new thing. Why do they have to do this? Because you can't bring people to join the Jewish people unless you somehow or another break down this wall of the difference between a Jew and a non-Jew. Now, we also bring people into Klal Yisrael. And we also break down the wall, but not in the way they did it. They did it by reducing the Jewish people to be just another one of the nations. The way the Torah does it is when a Jew, when somebody who's not Jewish comes to be Messiah, they become part of Klal Yisrael. They also have inside of them that light, that chelek, that kedusha, and they become part of Klal Yisrael. Not that we become them, but they become us. They become part of Klal Yisrael in every single way, and they have all of the kochos of Klal Yisrael. Everybody knows the story of Rabbi Akiva. When Rabbi Akiva was being martyred, right? They were treating him however terrible, torturing him, and they were obviously going to kill him. And he said, my whole life I waited for this. What does it mean? His whole life he wanted to die? Of course it doesn't mean that. But Rabbi Akiva was a descendant of converts, of Geri Tzedek, and he wondered to himself, okay, we became Jewish. We keep the mitzvahs, we do it. But do we have that koach that Jews have? That chelek elokam imal, that's willing to give their lives for Hashem. He always wondered. That's what he meant. I waited my whole life for this. And now I see I do have that. This is Rabbi Akiva who knew the whole Torah. But knowing the whole Torah is one thing. Having that light, that chelek elokam imal, is something else entirely. A non-Jew could sit and learn Torah and remain a non-Jew. Because what defines a Jew is that chelek elokam imal, that kol. And that kol is carried in Klal Yisrael through us, through Jewish women, right? Through the Chana who's not only willing to give their lives for her children to die for Hashem, but is encouraging them, who's standing there and encouraging them and saying to them, do not bow down to them. Not just don't bow down to their idol. Don't bow down to their culture. Don't bow down to their system. Don't in any way become them. You have to remain who you are, even if it means you give your life, because your life is worth nothing if you become them. If you become them, you may as well be dead. That's what we were told on Har Sinai. Kadosh Baruch Hu held the mountain over our head and said, if you accept the Torah, good, and if not, this is where you'll be buried. If you accept the Torah, good. If not, you may as well be dead. And Chanukah is the time of tremendous Mesiras Nefesh, where Klal Yisrael reached this high level of kol and brought back that kol till the end, till the time of the Geula Shlema. We know that Chazal tell us that the light of Chanukah will light us until the Mashiach comes. What's that light? It's the light of Mesiras Nefesh. It's the light of the kol. It's the light of the chelek elokam imal, of the willingness and of the ability to go beyond, not just they do this and we do that. They keep Friday, they keep Sunday, we keep Saturday. They eat this and we eat that. Not just that. Of course it has to be that. They're not keeping mitzvahs. There's nothing to talk about. But it's much more than that. It's that we are in ourselves something different. We are the Segula. We are the Hashem, the HaKodesh. And if we have that, it's not just that it will honor Hashem and it's good for us, but it's good for the nations as well. We're not doing this so we can rule over them or something. We're doing this because in the end it will be good for them. If we dim the light will be dimmed for everyone. So this is Chanukah. We're being mechanech ourselves. We're educating ourselves, dedicating ourselves to this idea, to the idea of the time when Yirtzeh Hashem, B'Korah of Mamish, we will see the lighting of the menorah and the Beis Hamikdash. We should be zeicha to be there, to see it, to hear about it, to rejoice with it. Yirtzeh Hashem very soon. Okay, thank you.